In a quiet Nashville law office, on a cold February morning in 2021, a room full of grown adults sat in complete, stunned silence. Kind of silence that follows something so unexpected, so fundamentally disorienting, that the human brain simply refuses to process it at normal speed. Lawyers shuffled papers. A court-appointed administrator cleared his throat. And in the center of it all, curled on a plaid blanket in the corner of the room, completely unbothered by the magnitude of what was being announced in her name, was an 8-year-old border collie named Lulu. She had just inherited $5 million. Not 1,000, not 100,000, $5 million. Legally transferred, officially documented, and ironclad under the laws of the state of Tennessee. An amount of money that most American families will never see in 3 generations of hard work. Handed without condition or compromise to a dog who, at that precise moment, was more interested in the creak of a heating pipe than the legal proceedings unfolding around her. The man who had made this decision was named Bill Dorris. And to understand why he did what he did, you have to understand who Bill Dorris was. Because he was not the kind of man who made the news. He was not a tech billionaire, or a reality television personality, or an heir to a dynasty. He was something rarer and quieter than any of those things. He was a self-made man in the truest American sense of the phrase. Born without privilege, built without shortcuts, successful without spectacle. Bill Dorris had spent decades quietly accumulating a fortune through disciplined business acumen and the kind of old-fashioned work ethic that does not photograph well but builds empires nonetheless. He lived in a modest Nashville home. He drove a sensible car. He did not attend galas or appear in society columns or cultivate a public image of any kind. What Bill Dorris had, instead of all of that, was Lulu. She had come into his life the way the most important things often do, without announcement, without fanfare, without any indication of the weight she would eventually carry in his world. Border Collie puppy, intelligent beyond measure, with the kind of alert, searching eyes that make you feel, rationally, persistently, that the animal looking at you understands more than she is letting on. From the moment she arrived, Lulu became the organizing principle of Bill Dorris's daily existence. His mornings began with her. His evenings ended with her. Every walk, every meal, every quiet evening on the back porch watching the Tennessee sky shift from gold to purple. She was there, constant, loyal, present in the way that only dogs can be present, without agenda, without judgment, without the complicated subtext that colors every human relationship. People who knew Bill Dorris in his final years have said, consistently and without prompting, that Lulu was not simply his pet. She was his companion in the deepest sense of that word, a creature who greeted him when the world did not. Heartbeat in a house that might otherwise have been silent. In a life that had been defined by achievement and acquisition, she was the one thing he had not built or bought or strategized toward. She had simply arrived, and she had simply stayed. And in doing so, she had become everything. Bill Dorris died in the autumn of 2020, leaving behind a modest public legacy and an extraordinary private one. His estate was substantial. His instructions were precise. And somewhere in the careful, deliberate architecture of his final wishes, he had made a decision that would send shockwaves through American media, ignite a national debate about wealth and animals and human priorities, and turn an 8-year-old border collie from Nashville into one of the most famous dogs in the world. He left Lulu $5 million. And he left the world to figure out what to do with that fact. The legal mechanism that made this possible is called a pet trust. And while the concept may sound like the invention of an eccentric millionaire, it is in fact a firmly established and widely recognized legal instrument available in all 50 American states. A pet trust operates on a straightforward principle. A designated sum of money is placed into a legally binding trust, administered by a court-appointed trustee, for the sole purpose of ensuring the care, comfort, and well-being of a named animal. Trust dictates exactly how the money may be spent. Veterinary care, food, housing, grooming, enrichment. Every conceivable expense associated with maintaining the animal's quality of life is anticipated, documented, and funded. And critically, money cannot be redirected. It cannot be inherited by the trustee. It exists for one purpose and one purpose only: the animal. In Lulu's case, the appointed caretaker was a woman named Martha Burton, Bill Dorris's trusted neighbor and longtime friend. Martha had known Lulu for years. She had watched her grow from a puppy into the composed, intelligent, deeply affectionate dog she had become. When the terms of Bill's estate were read aloud in that Nashville law office and the full weight of $5 million settled over the room, Martha Burton did not celebrate. She did not gasp or reach for her phone to call a realtor or begin mentally redecorating. By her own account, she sat very still, looked down at Lulu, and felt the particular gravity or responsibility that money alone could never adequately define. She told a reporter shortly afterward in what would become one of the most quoted lines of the entire media firestorm that followed. And firestorm is not an exaggeration, because what came next was nothing short of a full-scale national reckoning, she said quietly and without drama. He loved that dog more than anything in this world. He wanted to make sure she was taken care of. That is all this is. America, predictably, did not accept that simple explanation. Within 48 hours of the story breaking, it was everywhere. Morning television, late-night monologues, Twitter threads that stretched for days, editorial columns and debate that erupted was not really about Lulu. It was about something much larger and much more uncomfortable. The question of what we value, how we assign the critics were loud and, in some cases, genuinely impassioned. How, they asked, could $5 million be directed toward a dog in a country where children went hungry? Or worth, and what it says about a society when a single animal inherits more money than most of its citizens will earn in a lifetime. Major newspapers. Veterans slept on streets where entire families were one medical bill away from financial collapse. Is this not the most grotesque possible illustration of inequality? Wealth so vast and so insulated from social consequence that its final act was to bypass every human need in favor of an animal's comfort? Was Bill Dorris's decision an act of love or an act of profound, unconscious societal indifference? Defenders were equally vocal. Bill Dorris had earned his money legally and entirely through his own effort. He had paid his taxes. He had broken no law and harmed no person. In a country that enshrines the right to private property and individual freedom as foundational national values, what could be more American than a man choosing to spend his fortune exactly as he wished? And who among his critics, they asked, had the moral authority to tell a man how to love, or how to grieve the coming absence of the one creature who had made the silence of his later years bearable? Debate raged. Cameras pointed at Martha Burton's modest Nashville home. And inside, completely indifferent to all of it, Lulu waited by the back door, tail moving, ready for her afternoon walk. Because here is the truth about Lulu that the headlines consistently failed to capture. She did not know she was a millionaire. She did not know that her name was trending. She did not understand the op-eds or the television segments or the philosophical debates being waged in her name across the breadth of the American media landscape. She knew the sound of Martha's footsteps on the kitchen floor. She knew the particular squeak of her favorite tennis ball. She knew the smell of the backyard in the morning and the feeling of warm sunlight on the back porch in the late afternoon, and the specific, irreplaceable comfort of being near the people who loved her. She was, in every way that mattered to her, simply a dog. A deeply fortunate, exceptionally well-provided for dog, but a dog nonetheless. Her days followed the rhythm that dogs have always followed, the rhythm that no amount of money can alter or improve upon. She woke, she ate, she played, she walked, she rested, she loved. She was loved in return. $5 million existed in trust documents and legal frameworks and bank accounts that meant nothing to her and everything to the humans arguing about them. Martha Burton has spoken about this repeatedly in the years since the story broke. And each time she does, she returns to the same observation. She says that Lulu never changed, that the cameras and the attention and the controversy washed over her like weather, present for a moment, then gone. That what Lulu cared about, what she had always cared about, was connection, presence. Simple, profound, daily act of being with the people she loved in the place she called home. And perhaps that is the real legacy of Bill Dorris. Not the $5 million, not the legal precedent, not the national debate, or the television segments, or the think pieces about American inequality. The real legacy is simpler and more durable than any of those things. It is the image of an 8-year-old border collie, completely unbothered by her own fame, chasing a tennis ball across a Nashville backyard in the afternoon light. It is the proof, delivered without argument or agenda, that the greatest gift any of us can leave behind is not a fortune. It is the evidence that we love something, fully, unconditionally, and without reservation, while we were here. Bill Dorris could not take his money with him, but he could ensure that the creature who had given his quiet life its deepest meaning would never want for anything in his absence. He could leave behind, in the only language the law understands, a declaration of what had mattered most to him. And in doing so, he gave the rest of us something far more valuable than a viral news story. He gave us a question worth sitting with. Not what will you leave behind, who, and whether they will know, beyond any possible doubt, they were loved. If this story made you feel something, if Lulu's quiet, unbothered dignity in the middle of all that noise reminded you of the animal waiting for you at home right now, drop a comment below and tell me what your pet means to you. And if you want more stories like this, stories about the extraordinary, unbreakable bonds between humans and animals, subscribe right now, because the next one will stay with you far longer than this one. Link is live. The story is waiting, and your dog, wherever they are right now, is already more loyal to you than you probably realize. Do not waste a single day of that.